This is going to be a scary video to upload when I upload it. Should I just say, well, you've read the title. So basically, I am querying the fact, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? I'm wondering, questioning, God, Finn, just say it out loud. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back, lovely people. Thank you so much for choosing to spend time with me today. It's really lovely to see you. I am very nervous to share today's video with you, but also very keen to share today's video with you. If you're watching for the very first time, then you're about to share in a very big moment with me today. So welcome. So this video has taken me a long time to share. It follows on from last week's video about EMDR therapy. So it's a really good idea to watch that one first if you haven't already, because that one kind of sets the scene for this one. So if you've not watched it, I'll link it here for you to go and watch that first. So I haven't been ready to share about this until now. I just needed to be in the right place, needed to be stronger, and that time is now. And rather than explaining everything now, I've actually got a vlog that I filmed at the time and never shared, and I want to play that for you now because it captures everything perfectly that I was experiencing at the time, as it was all coming up for me and I was trying to make sense of it at the time. It is the 8th of July 2024. It may not be anywhere near this date when you actually watch this video. So basically what's going on at the moment, I'm wondering, questioning, God, Finn, just say it out loud. I'm wondering whether I'm autistic. Spicy. Now, this is one of those things, it's like, what? If you've heard it for the very first time. But of course for me, this isn't like the first time. This is one of those things that, you know, I've been thinking about and wondering about for quite a while, a few years now. It's been a growing question for probably about, it's probably been a number of years that it's been questioned, but more seriously for the last 3 or 4 years. And it's gone from a bit of a joke, I mean, because Chris has kind of gone, oh, you're so autistic, and like between like a few very close friends where I've kind of gone, yeah, I really think I am. He sits fiddling with something. It's gone from like, you know, oh, I like a bridge, I like a train. The fact that, you know, I've got some sensory stuff going on, you know, certain pants, certain socks. The fact that, you know, beans may not touch other stuff on my plate. That Chris must tell me he's going to sneeze so I can cover my ears. Otherwise, I just can't bear it. I just want to slap him. It's not his fault. You know, loud noises, sudden noises. The list is endless in terms of stuff like that. But it goes far, far deeper than that. And over the last couple of years, it's getting worse and worse. And I'm making sense of this in that, because of my chronic illness, I think I have less energy to hide some of the stuff that I was obviously hiding, masking, whatever you want to call it. Now, I think what's really brought it to light is I had EMDR therapy last year, tapping, after my mental health took a real dive and lots of stuff from childhood was coming up. And I think what the EMDR, because I was left with a lot from the EMDR therapy, it didn't make me feel better. Well, it did and it didn't. It brought up stuff that needed to be brought up, but it's also left me feeling really, I keep using this word at the moment, discombobulated is how I would describe how I'm feeling at the moment. And I wasn't really sure about what, but at the end of the EMDR, I was honest in saying that, I feel like this has done me good because what's been unearthed needed to be unearthed, but I feel like I'm in a mess because now this is finished, I'm left with stuff that I can't even explain what this stuff is. I just feel like stuff has come up that I now need to go and look at because I feel like I'd kind of dealt with all of my childhood stuff on a kind of like understanding, thinking level, but there's stuff that's come up on a feeling level that I need to revisit. I don't even really understand it. So I'm now on a waiting list for some psychotherapy. So because I was still having a lot of huge anxiety and low mood because of that, they put me in touch with the CM Community Mental Health team in Plymouth for some extra support in the meantime. And I've been seeing this community mental health nurse who's come round, support worker, and she isn't a counsellor as such. She's more like somebody that looks at your whole circumstances and works out ways to help you with all sorts of stuff, whether it's like stuff you need in your home, support networks, everything. Looks at you very holistically. So she's been visiting and trying to help out in all sorts of ways. And we were talking about anxiety and everything. So she was going to do some anxiety management with me. And we filled out the usual. Done it millions of times, the anxiety diary stuff. And that got us talking about what comes up with me with anxiety. And the usual stuff, and I was saying that, it's not about paranoia. It's not about worrying what people think of me. It's that I just don't want to be social. And we sat chatting and we ended up just talking about autistic traits. And I said that, it's come up a couple of times with therapists in the past, but we'd just never really gone there. And I was really honest in a way that I'd never been before. And I think that's because she's not a counsellor. And with every other counsellor, I think I've ended up in a room with a counsellor and ended up just going into a pattern that this is what a counsellor expects. This is what the anxiety thing looks like, and this is what we always do. But this was a different kind of setup, because this wasn't just like, okay, we're going to go down this road. This is like, let's just talk differently about what this is. And she was saying, what do you get out of being social? And I was like, going home. That's over. Thank goodness, I've just done it. I'm supposed to do it. It's supposed to feel good. I've just ticked it off. And we were talking about, what happens when, if people knock on your door, like, if your neighbours knock on your door, do you not feel good for having a conversation? I'm just like, I wish they wouldn't. And I feel so bad for saying this, It's so hard to be this honest about this, It's really, really difficult. Because I seem like I'm really social, but I'm just so good at, like, I've done this for years, at, like, looking like I'm okay and acting like I'm okay. I hate it. But I've just always, I've done so much stuff around anxiety on feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and learning to push through and learning to, like, act as if and all of these things. but it never improves, and that's what I was saying to her. I've done so much therapy, so many different types of anxiety management courses. I've got so much better with managing my mental health, but the one thing that never gets any better, in fact just gets worse, is my anxiety. And we got talking, and she was saying, if this is autism and not anxiety, then you're using the wrong tools. You're effectively using a spoon to cut a fillet of steak, because if you're constantly like trying to push yourself to be social when you're just not wired that way, you're just like beating yourself up and trying to fix something that isn't broken, because of course if it's anxiety, we want you to get over it, and you'd want to get over it so you can benefit from being social. But if this is where your brain is wired, that you're just not socially motivated, you don't want to be social, then that's absolutely okay. If you're autistic and this is what's going on, then you don't have to push yourself to do that. If you're not getting anything from it, then that's okay. And you don't have to keep going and spending like months in therapy beating yourself up for something that isn't your fault. And I'd never really thought about it like that before. And we were just sat over a couple of weeks talking about it, and I decided that, because I'm 50, and I think at 50 years of age, is this too late to even go and think about having an assessment and a diagnosis? And what's the point? What is the point? But I think that is the point, because if I'm constantly trying to overcome anxiety, and I don't need to overcome anxiety, if I can get a diagnosis that says, yes, you're autistic, and I can stop engaging with therapy for something that I'm never going to be able to overcome because I don't need to overcome it, if I can instead go down a different path and find ways to manage the things I struggle with the right tools, then it is worth getting a diagnosis. The more I chat about this, the more I reflect on this, the more convinced I am I'm autistic. It's gone from kind of a bit of a joke to like, oh my goodness, I really am autistic. Since like this conversation's happened, and I'm talking more and more to a friend of mine who's also autistic about all these things I'm feeling, and to Chris, and I'm going, this behaviour I'm doing, and I'm like, how could I have thought that was normal, or neurotypical, and I'm just going, how have I missed this? You just go through life, don't you, with the things you do, and you just think everyone does it until it has a light shone on it, and then you go, oh dear. But the fact that the thing is that's really brought it to a head, though, is that life is just getting too difficult, and I'm really thinking that a lot of this has also played into my chronic illness. It's just another thing that's put me in burnout. The years of like masking, as they call it, but to me it feels like pretending, because I pretended for so long, to be okay, to push through with social situations and communicating and just life, and to understand life in ways I really don't, and now is the time to start making sense of all this and find a better way to manage life with tools that work for autism, rather than using mental health tools that aren't working for me. So yeah. So as you can see in that footage, I started questioning things in a way that I'd never questioned anything before. The conversation with the support worker led me to look for a private counsellor that was familiar with neurodiversity, so that I could explore this a bit deeper. And whilst I was waiting for an assessment, because I needed to know, am I autistic? Is this just my imagination? Am I just like reading into this? And, I needed to know. So I wanted to work with a counsellor to see what was going on. And I also wanted to look at the unmasking, and because I was understanding that concept more and more, and whether like masking was playing a part into my chronic illness, like years of like this chronic anxiety, and whether masking was contributing to that, and whether unmasking would help me to lower my stress and anxiety, and then in turn help me to be less fatigued, and all of these things that I had questions over. So I sought a therapist's help with that. And then as the year went on, I learnt about the right to choose process and managed to find myself a provider so that I could actually get myself an earlier assessment. So now, after all these months of waiting, processing and reflecting, I finally have my answer, and I have been officially diagnosed with autism spectrum condition. Saying that out loud feels like such a relief. It's still very strange to say it out loud, but it does feel like such a relief. It's been very strange to not talk about it on my channel because I am very open on here. It's meant that I've had to edit the way I talk and censor the way I talk, and that's not felt right. But I've just needed to, as I've said, wait until I was in the right place, because being very public, I've had to just make sure I was strong in myself, because obviously, I get comments. So I've needed to make sure I'm in the right place to talk about this. This is something I've suspected for such a long time, but just never thought that it could relate to me, because I've always just known the very classic presentation of autism until more recent years, and I've understood autism on a much more broad sense. And, I've clearly just been misdiagnosed. I mean, this is something for later videos. I've got a lot I want to talk with you about. But, I didn't really understand that a lot of what I was going through was autism, because it had been diagnosed as other things. So now with this diagnosis, I understand a lot of myself so much better, and I can support myself so much better. Chris can understand me so much better, and I can manage things so much better. I want to make lots of videos for you. I have lots of things planned. I want to go back over the entire year and, talk about everything that's gone on, the process of unmasking, the referral process, what happened in the diagnostic process, everything. But right now, what was the most important thing, of course, was to share the news, and then the rest of the videos obviously will come next. But yeah, the most important thing now was just to share this news. I know this might come as a surprise to some of you, maybe it might not come as a surprise to others, and maybe you'll relate to some of this, and if you do, I would love to read your comments. So as always, please pop your comments below. I'd love to read them, and I'd love to get a conversation going around this. So yes, but please be gentle with me. I'm feeling very raw about coming out about this. I'm feeling more raw about coming out about this than I was coming out as trans for some reason. I have no idea why, but there you go. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for being with me on this journey. It's going to be an interesting year of continuing to unmask and discover myself now as an autistic man. If you wish to continue with me on this new phase of my journey, I would be honoured. But yeah, see you next week for those who wish to continue. Take care, folks. Chat soon.